Welcome to the Earning Freedom Podcast and welcome to Success After Prison. I am Michael Santos with michaelsantos.com and prisonprofessor.com. Really enthusiastic to be back here another day to be continuing this reading of this newest book that I wrote called Success After Prison, How I Built Assets Worth $1 Million Within 2 years of release from 26 years inside, and how you can succeed too. In fact, I'm so excited about it. Why? Because today is a day that really gives me some clarity on why it's so important. I'll be revealing that a little bit more as I provide these instructional tutorials in between the readings. For those of you who are new to the podcast, or new to the video channel, I just want you to know I record these episodes every day in 20-minute segments until I conclude this book. After I finish this book, I'll probably go on and read some of my other books because I'm really enjoying this. I'm sensing that it gives me an opportunity to put into a real-life perspective the relationship between the decisions that we make when we are in struggle and our prospects for success later. Now, as I said, I host two websites. One is michaelsantos.com, one is prisonprofessor.com, and they serve different purposes. But the unified vision of each of those purposes is to help people who are either going into the prison system, help people who are in prison so that they can emerge successfully, and helping the formerly incarcerated transition into society successfully. And when I say transition successfully, I am not talking about just this mediocre life of doing okay. I am talking about coming back strong, like many of the people that I feature on the Earning Freedom podcast episodes in our Mastermind library. Now, everything that I teach and share is reflective of what I learned from Masterminds. I want to be clear about that. My lessons come from masterminds like Socrates and Viktor Frankl and Nelson Mandela and Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and Jack Welch and so many other leaders. I always use those go-to people because I want to show that masterminds are people who may have lived thousands of years ago and they may be living today. They may be people that are right next to us. They may be people that we will never meet. I learned from them all, and I'm so grateful from all of them that I've been devoting a significant portion of my life since concluding my 26-year journey in prison to sharing these messages, to disseminating to as many people as I possibly can. And that is one of the reasons for these podcasts, one of the reasons for my YouTube channel, one of the reasons for the many books that I write and the programs that I create. And if you want to see any of it, it's the easiest. You can find it very easily simply by tuning into any of my social networks. If you're getting this information, you know that I give it away for free. I give away so much content for a lot of reasons. One, I want you to see I'm 100% authentic. Everything I say, think, and do is in harmony with helping individuals who are in struggle prepare for a life of success and meaning and relevance. How? I want to show them by introducing the strategies that got me through 9,500 days in prison. And so for earlier episodes, it's easy enough to find. If you're watching this out here in society, just go to the same channel that you're looking at right now and back up, and you can see from the start to the finish. If you are listening to it in society, my only request is that you will subscribe to the show, rate and review the show if you're listening on iTunes, because that allows me to reach more people, that broadens the distribution, and it really helps support the show. If you'd like to get a free digital copy of the book, Success After Prison, simple enough. Just visit my websites, either one of my websites, michaelsantos.com or prisonprofessor.com. There'll be a pop-up window comes up. Give your best email address, and a digital copy will be sent to you immediately. Of course, you can also order a softcover copy right there on the website if you'd like, or to have sent to a loved one in prison that doesn't have access to the web. Or you can go to Amazon as well, where all of my books and coursework is available. So that is the intro. Now I want to recap a little bit about what I said in the previous video where I was talking about credit and urging people to position themselves so that they get credit, not only prepare themselves for credit with financial institutions, but also credit with other people. Because if you're serving time in prison, if you're in struggle right now, it may be difficult to get initially credit with a financial institution, but it's very, very important that you build that credit with other individuals, because other individuals, if you can persuade them to believe in you, you can overcome this challenge of coming back to society with a 000 credit score. Or if you're in society and you've got a bad credit score, you can begin sowing seeds to get other people to believe in you. That's what I did while I was in prison. And as a consequence of that, that's what launched my journey of success since I came back. Remember, success after prison begins with the adjustment decisions you make while you are in prison. And now I'm going to conclude or continue reading from the book. I'm now talking about how I got our first mortgage. So I'll continue reading with some interludes in between. So Carol and I met with a mortgage banker and provided all of the documentation requested. We took the next step of ordering an appraisal of the property. By considering comparable prices in the neighborhood, the appraiser provided documentation valuing our property at $442,500. So important to remember, I only paid $390,000 for that property. And the $390,000, as you're going to read, this is an aside, by the way, I only put $12,000 down. So remember that, because that was a significant milestone for us in me going to build my first $1 million in assets. So to avoid additional charges for mortgage insurance, this is in the mortgage that we applied for, we agreed to accept a mortgage of 80% of our home's appraised value, or roughly $354,000. So, recap again, bought the house for $390,000, okay? It appreciated to being worth $442,000. So now I had an asset that I was controlling that was worth $442,000 within my first year of concluding my obligation to the Bureau of Prisons. First year, I'm controlling an asset that at that time is worth $442,000. And so I was able to, now that the value had increased, the mortgage company would allow me to borrow up to 80% of that home's value, which was $354,000. So I had to write a check to cover the difference between the $390,000 that I initially purchased the property for, $390,000, less the $12,000 I put down, which was about $380, $378. Now I could only borrow $354, so I had to write a check for about another $20 or $24,000. I could write that check. Why? Because of the decisions that I made and the work that I did and the money that I saved, and by not living crazily out here, just focusing on success, keeping my eye on the ball. But by getting that mortgage, I could pay off Chris and Seth of ABS Development. And that really made a huge difference. In only 18 months, I had built equity in that property of more than $88,000. It's more than twice what we put into the property in total. In only, less than, I think it was about a year and a half since I concluded my obligation to the Bureau of Prisons. So in applying for the mortgage, Carol and I considered the term of the loan. And this is important also, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that at the end of this reading. Traditionally, most people finance their properties over a 30-year term, okay? Mortgages are generally over a 30-year term. But the longer amortization meaning the length of time that the loan is financed over, if it's over 30 years, that results in the advantage of having lower monthly interest payments. But with that longer term, the first part of the loan is basically all interest. So I wouldn't be getting any real equity with regard to debt reduction by financing over a 30-year note. And so this is what's really important here. I want to impress upon you. It's thinking not in terms of what is going to bring me immediate gratification, but rather what's going to help me achieve my goal. And remember, what was my goal? My goal when I came out of prison was to earn my first $1 million within my first 5 years. Not because I wanted to live an extravagant life, but rather it was because I believed that if I earned $1 million, I would have credibility with audiences. Audiences would see that there is a direct relationship between our behavior when we're in struggle and our prospects for release, for success upon release. Okay? It's really important for me to try and make that connection, because I know it's hard. I know that when you're living in struggle and you're living in challenging circumstances and there are pressures all around you, you're thinking, what's the point? what's the use? Why should I do this? Well, I want to show you why you should reject the negativity, why you should be very careful about the people with whom you choose to associate, why you should be really cautious about how you spend your free time, what values you have in there, because those decisions are going to have a direct influence, not only on your successful journey through the prison experience, but more importantly, your successful journey back into society. And I'm not concerned whether you have a sentence of 1 year or whether you have a life sentence. The reality is, every day you are going to be making decisions, and those decisions will have a direct influence on what opportunities open for you. In previous episodes, I've spoken about these individuals that recently had their sentences commuted. Well, I can assure you, a couple of years before they had their sentences commuted, they had no idea what was going to happen. But they stayed the course. They had their values in place. They set their goals. They were on point, and they documented the journey. And when the opportunity opened, they were really well positioned to emerge successfully, to emerge significantly sooner than would have been the case if they fell into this myth of the penitentiary. Now, I can tell you, when living in struggle and living in failure, there's this old myth. I heard it from a friend of mine. His name was Wayne Davis. He was from Harlem, and he used to tell me about this theory or this cliche or whatever the saying was in the ghetto. And he told me that, in the ghetto, it's like crabs in the bucket. You got a lot of crabs in the bucket. And when one crab is trying to climb the wall and scale the wall and climb out and escape the ghetto, all the other crabs will work to pull him back down. You see, they don't really want to succeed themselves. They just want everybody else to fail. And you've got to be asking that question of yourself. Who are you going to be? Are you going to be that individual that has the inner strength and discipline to reject the criminal lifestyle and all these other forces that are trying to pull you down and suck you back in and keep you mired in this really challenging, difficult environment? Or are you going to be the kind of guy who has the strength and the foresight to succeed? Because very few people do. And I am not talking about, it doesn't matter to me what educational background you have, what socioeconomic background you come from. It doesn't make a difference to me about anything else other than these principles that I learned from Masterminds as being crucial and essential to your prospects for success. And what are they? It's to have a very clear set of values. It's to be able to identify your goals. It's to move forward with the right attitude, have the right aspiration, take disciplined action, hold yourself accountable, be aware of opportunities and make the world aware of you. You've got to celebrate every achievement. You've got to express your gratitude and appreciation for the blessings that come your way. And when you do that, that's when you self-actualize. That's when you have the strength to move forward in a disciplined, deliberate way. And it doesn't only apply to your life in prison, it will apply to your life out here. And that's why I'm talking so much about credit. I'm using this relationship, I hope, as a teaching tool that will help you see that even though I came out of prison with a 000 credit score, I was able to get a loan. But when I got a loan, a mortgage for $354,000, something like that, even when I got that, I continued thinking about the long term, about what I am trying to do. I didn't try to minimize my payments. No, I focused on a 15-year note instead of a 30-year note because it was a strategic decision. If I focused on a 15-year note, the majority of my payment every month would go toward principal reduction. And as we get a little bit later in this book, you are going to see how that theory of focusing on principal debt reduction made a significant impact over the past year and how much my equity has grown over the past year. Remember, I said I had $88,000 in equity in this house when I got the mortgage. Why? Well, on a 15-year note, my payment was about $2,500 a month, but more than $1,500 of every payment went to reduce my debt. So my debt's going down on the one side while simultaneously owning an appreciating asset in an appreciating market meant the value was increasing on the other side. So you're making money on both ends while you're sleeping. And that's a fundamentally different approach than just seizing the moment for immediate gratification. It's the vision of saying, what do I want to achieve? What is the goal that I am after? And how badly do I want it? And that's my question for you. How badly do you want to succeed? It's really important for you to answer that question, because every day you are going to be surrounded by what? By a bunch of crabs in the bucket. And those people don't necessarily want to succeed themselves. They just want you to fail. And your job is to be able to find the inner strength to overcome those challenges, to overcome those difficulties. I can tell you, every prison where I was confined, every one, I always heard this message about the best way to serve time. The best way to serve time, people would say, is to forget about the world outside and just focus on prison. Focus on your prison reputation. Focus on doing time, because you can't do anything to control the world outside. I rejected that advice. And I know you're going to have to make your own decisions. But I would just urge you, look around you. Look around you and ask questions. Are the people, the vast majority of people who are around you, succeeding? Are they able to come back to society and crush it? Or are they lost? And always ask yourself a question. Are they leaders? Are they masterminds? Or are they crabs in the bucket? They may be masterminds in the prison environment. I met many people who were extraordinarily genius in how to serve time. And if you want to serve time, look to them for guidance. But if you want to succeed after prison, I would urge you to learn from the masterminds who taught me, because they made all the difference in my life. And I know that they can make the difference in your life. And what it'll start is you understanding how your adjustment patterns today will influence your prospects for success when you get out. So the advantage, this is a recap here with concluding this chapter of the book, the advantage of owning real estate that we financed over a 15-year term became readily apparent to us. As long as the housing market continued to heat up, our property's higher valuation would increase in equity. If we looked at a 5-year plan, which is I'm always on a 5-year plan, and property values increased by 20% over that term, our $442,000 property would be worth $530,000 in 5 years. And in addition, by making our mortgage payments on time over a 5-year term, we would reduce the amount of mortgage debt we owed on the property by at least $100,000. So if those plans worked out, we could project an equity in the property of more than $250,000 after 5 years, which is a great return on the money we invested after we purchased the property. Now, as I made these projections, it became quite clear that real estate ownership could and should play a significant role in my plan to build credibility. If I could replicate the strategy a few more times, it would seem that I could reach the goal I had set of building a $1 million net worth by August of 2018, 5 years after I concluded my 26-year obligation to the Bureau of Prisons. And I would only need to make my mortgage payments on time and build my career to really advance the ball toward getting there. So to build my career, however, I would still need to persuade more institutions to purchase our reentry products that we'd created. And without independent research to validate the program, as I'd spoken about in the earlier episode, so that I couldn't be evidence-based, I would continue to meet resistance in the marketplace. I just had to deal with the world as it existed. That was the reality. Couldn't cry about it, just like you can't cry about where you are right now. You got to do something. You got to take action. So administrators would object all the time, saying that although I used the course to become successful, there was no guarantee that others could do the same. But to position myself to overcome objections that I anticipated facing, I knew that I needed to take action and build more credibility, which is what I am telling you to do. Start building your credibility. Figure out how you can do it. One strategy for me to build that credibility would be to write more, to speak more, to create more opportunities that would put me in front of more prospective buyers. And each of those strategies required financial resources. So I needed more working capital to reach a broader market. As the saying goes, it takes money to make money. And that concludes that chapter 7. Chapter 8, I'm going to talk about raising capital and how I went about doing that. But I just want to conclude this by saying, again, your success after prison or your success after struggle is going to be hugely influenced by the adjustments that you start making today. Okay? The adjustments you start making today. Remember what we said before. The best time to plant an oak tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Start sowing your seeds today to build more credibility with both people and then with financial institutions. And use all of your critical thinking skills to help you get there. I am Michael Santos with michaelsantos.com, prisonprofessor.com. I want to thank you for giving me your attention. If you're watching this on the internet, on iTunes or YouTube, please subscribe to my channels, rate and review the show on iTunes so that we can get broader distribution. If you want a free digital copy of our book, Success After Prison, How I Built Assets Worth $1 Million Within 2 years of Release from 26 Years Inside and How You Can Succeed Too, very simple to get it. Visit my website, enter your email address, and a digital copy will be sent to you immediately. I thank you so much. I never ask anybody to do anything that I don't do. And you see that every episode begins and ends with me asking for support to broaden my network, to build more credibility. I encourage you to do the same. Thanks so much. I am Michael with michaelsantos.com.